Hi everyone, and welcome back to Story Time. We're still on Roman Diary, The Journey of Ileona, a Young Slave by Richard Platt. Day 10 of the month of September. Today we accompanied my master on a visit to the site of some new baths. People say they will be finer than Nero's, and the biggest Roma's ever seen. My master was one of the senators who encouraged the emperor to build these baths, in spite of the great cost of their construction. We left at an early hour before the sun got too hot. Several of the house slaves carried my master and mistress in chairs. Cythus and I followed behind, talking. The baths stand just up the hill from the amphitheatre, and it's easy to see them from wherever you are in the city. As we arrived, an important-looking man asked me in Greek, "Would you like to climb to the top?" He must have heard my accent. Of course, I replied, yes, in Greek. And he called over to a mason, who led me to a huge basket. As soon as I stepped into it, the mason jumped in after me and waved his arm. At this signal, two men began to walk inside a great wheel high above, setting it turning. To my great alarm, this made the basket rise high into the air. Higher and higher it climbed, until I could see every part of the baths, and was astonished to learn that the walls are but a trick. From the outside, they look like solid marble, but in fact, they're not. The mason showed me how the builders mix lime with water and a kind of dust called pozzolana, so that it turns into dark grey mess, which they pour between the moulds made of wooden planks. Within days, the mess turns hard, so that it stands up on its own without the wooden moulds. Then the masons cover it in thin slabs of stone, though they look like solid blocks. When I got back down to the steady ground, I could not find the Greek man to thank. On our way home, my mistress told me he is not Greek at all, but Syrian. That was only Apollodondrus, the emperor's architect. Day 15, the month of September. Cyprus is very proud. She's made friends with a stagehand at the theatre of Pompeii, who will let us into a performance there tomorrow afternoon. Our mistress will never know, for she plans to visit a visit to the temple at the same time. She does not want anyone to go with her. Day 16. Pompeii's theatre is near Nero's baths, on the low ground by the big bend in the river. Inside, there's enough room for an audience of 20,000 to sit down. Not that they ever do. In all the time we were there, hardly anyone stayed in their seats. They stood up to applaud and cheer, or to shout back and heckle the actors. They walked back and forth too. Just as we arrived, half the audience left to watch a tightrope walk in another part of the city. The performance was unlike anything I have ever seen before. Cythus called it a pantomime. The star of this show stood at the centre of the stage, chanting and speaking at the top of his voice. Meanwhile, slaves made music with rattles, cymbals, drums, and gongs. The rest of the cast acted out the story in silence. The sweeping movements they made with their arms meant that those in the furthest seats could understand the action, even if they only spoke a little Latin. I didn't like the story. The chanting star told how a woman cheated on her husband. When some of the women in the cast took off their clothes, I covered my eyes, though most of the audience roared with laughter. When one of the actors spotted us and practically lifted us from our seats, telling us, "This is no place for girls as young as you," I was relieved that I didn't have to watch it anymore. The most extraordinary sight completed our wicked trip. We were marched to the exit. So as we were marched to the exit, Cypher hissed, "Look, look!" I followed her eyes and saw our mistress sitting with some friends in the seats above us, and she was laughing as loud as any of them. I put my finger to my lip and we hurried home. Day 20 of the month of September. Today my mistress announced that she is to hold a banquet in honour of the two newly appointed senators. Nothing too grand, she added, just 9 of us. However, I have heard much of Roman banquets, and our cook was terrified at the thought of all the work and ran around moaning how we'll have to manage in our tiny kitchen. He was calmed only when my mistress assured him that the caterer will prepare most of the food and we will only reheat it here. Day 23. I can't quite believe the quantity of stuff that fills the kitchen in another room besides. Some of it I don't even recognise. The butcher brought some beasts like rats skinned and sewn up along the belly. I asked him what they were, and he cheerfully replied, "Them stuffed dormice, young lady, you cook 'em on a spit." I felt quite sick. Day 24. My task tonight is to stand at the side of the room with a jug of perfumed water and a towel, and before guests lie down to eat, I shall wash and dry their hands and feet. I shall wash their hands between courses too, if they command me to do so. This seems really quite deadly dull, but I shall at least get a chance to listen to the conversation. Thanks for today. Thanks for listening. See you later. Bye-bye.